Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see some new faces. Kelly, thanks so much for joining us. Dan, Margot, and Flick. I know these are people who are quite new to the community groups. And Cheryl, thanks for joining us, love. And I know, Mel, you've been around this a while, and Colin and Catherine, you have as well. And Dan, and Paul's not even here, so it's not even worth talking to Paul. But Leanne, yeah, and you've been around this a while, so it's nice to see a mixture of like new and old faces. I think Kelly, you're fresh out. Say that. Go on, Kel. Say that again, love.
I'm 2 days fresh in.
2 days fresh in, love. That's nice. And you sent Jenny a beautiful message, so thanks so much for that feedback.
Oh no, it was yeah, and I really meant it. It's because I've been part of Tree Ratner Buddhist order for about 20 years, so I don't know, just I don't know, like sometimes understandings of things seem to be much clearer within that practice. I don't know, just something in me has changed over the last couple of days that I've been really struggling the last 3 years, as in actually had a breakdown. And I just feel, all of a sudden, I just feel better. Cool. And it just seems to have coincided with like listening to the talks and everything. Oh, I'm trying not to kind of analyze it too much, which is really nice, which is something my brain doesn't usually let me do. So it feels so nice not to feel like that. I mean, it's just amazing. Feel great.
Good. And that's it. That's it, love. We have been taught so much that we need to fix ourselves.
Yeah.
We've been taught so much that fundamentally we're all broken, that there's something wrong with us. And it's not people's fault who kind of prescribe these ideas and prescribe things for people to do, like in order to find their way, as though life is, how can I put it? Most people aren't really aware of the nature of mind.
No.
They all live it, but very few people have actually had insight into the nature of it. And so as such, very few people have had insight into the nature of life. Very few people have, another way you could say that is, very few people have had insight into the nature of reality. This mysterious event, reality.
Mm.
But as people get quiet, one of the things Sydney Banks was a man who I personally listened to, and I know you listened to, and a few people on this call have listened to. But he was the man who uncovered the 3 principles. He would constantly tell people there is nothing to do. You just listen, and at some point you will just hear something, but it won't come from us. It won't come from the laptop. It's not that kind of listening with the ear kind of thing. It will be a hearing that takes place within, that just does a change within an individual, where they suddenly go, I can't explain why, but I feel different. The world hasn't changed. No. I'm still physiologically me, but it's different. And I think that's the beautiful gift that this actually brings to people, because when we start to see that, you realise we were always all right. We just didn't know it.
Yeah, I feel like that.
Yeah, and there'll be times, I promise this is just where life works, there'll be times when we go into experiences where we're not feeling comfortable, but it doesn't mean we're broken. Once you become aware of this, there's a logic to it. Once you become aware of that logic, you can never unknow it. And that's the really beautiful news about this. This learning is something that you will carry with you through life. And it's just a beginning. It's always just a beginning. So it's a really beautiful thing to know. Thanks, Kel.
It just feels, something just changed. It's not like I haven't been investigating these types of things for a long time, but something has changed. I just feel like a weight's come off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm expecting, you know, I'm not trying to escape my feelings or anything like that. It's just because I haven't been able to not have my feelings over the last 3 years, because they've been so visceral and so physically in my body. I have had to kind of break open kind of thing. But I just feel, I kind of felt like I'd had enough of feeling like that. But all of a sudden, I wasn't trying for anything to happen. I wasn't expecting anything to happen. Something has happened. I just feel completely different. And I can't explain it. It's really weird, considering I feel like I've had what you might call like various spiritual awakenings within the last God knows how many years. But I just feel completely different, and I don't know what's happened. It's just weird.
And that's just what happens. So
I'm very happy about it.
we're very happy about it as well, Cal. We're
really happy about it.
Good stuff, love.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
And really...
I'm pleased to join you. It's a pleasure.
Cool. You know, you mentioned just then, Cal, Buddhist teachings. You know, you look at all the spiritual teachings, and this is one of the things that really captured my attention. Personally, for me, before I came across the 3 principles, I had what people might call a spiritual experience. And what I call a spiritual experience is something I can't explain with my logical rationale. But it was a beautiful thing, a truly beautiful thing, and it allowed me to become aware that this is creation, here we are, but there is a creator. We get so lost in creation, and especially in the Western world, we love our sciences. We're taught our sciences at school, but the idea of spirit is kind of, it's classed in the kind of woo-woo bullshit kind of thing. We can't quantify it, we can't weigh it, we can't measure it, we can't cut it, we can't dissect it, we can't do anything with it, so we'll just ignore it. And then we end up with a situation, I personally feel, where the West it's severed itself from its true self. It's severed itself from its essence. But if you look at all spiritual teachings, fundamentally, they're all saying pretty much, when you cut through all the stories and you start to become aware of the metaphors, they're talking about the same thing. You know, there's this thing about in the Bible where it says the truth will set you free. This wasn't something I was ever interested in. It wasn't something I personally was interested in until I started to discover it for myself, and then listening to Sid. I got introduced to Sid by some miracle, I personally perceive it as. But that truth, when people start to wake up to truth, it's not something that the intellect can ever get. You can never get your head around it. The intellect's form. It's already thought. The intellect is thought things, thought ideas, thought beliefs. It's our memories, it's our perceptions, it's our beliefs, or whatever you want to call it. It's all that, all our ideas, and it's our ego. But all teachings are basically saying, if at some point you can see beyond your ego, if at some point you can see beyond your ego, you will find freedom. The freedom is literally just one thought away.
Yeah.
And the mind gets quiet. So it's like, for me, this coming across this I don't even know if you can call it an understanding, because I personally don't know I can't call it anything. So I can't really put it this way, I don't understand it.
No, I mean, I feel like that with my experience recently. It's like, how now, after all these years, I mean, like studying, I studied critical theory at university. I have a tendency for that type of thought. But now something just feels much more fluid, much more open, and I don't even want to know what it is. It just feels completely different. It's absolutely fine for it to just feel like that, and I'm really happy to just go with that right now. And it's just, Oh, it's so nice. The searching seems to have just stopped.
Yeah.
And it's just, oh, I feel such a relief.
Yeah.
So nice.
I think it's called presence,
Yeah.
where your mind just rests where it is. It's thinking. We still think, we still experience. That's the nature of mind. That's what mind does. It thinks.
Yes.
And as it thinks, so it experiences. So there was a line that I've recently become aware of within the Bible that apparently Jesus would say, and it is that it is done unto you as you believe.
Yeah.
He said that time and time again, but I've only just become aware of it. Like, it is done unto you as you believe. Your reality is whatever you believe it to be. If you believe the world to be a terrible place, that is the reality that you will encounter, and it will look absolutely correct. Consciousness will manifest that as your reality. And if an individual thinks they're not good enough, if they believe that, the moment they look in the mirror, they will see not good enough. Their consciousness will manifest the reality that they experience. And this was the beautiful thing, to start to see the nature of reality. Reality is consciousness. You cannot experience reality without consciousness. Now, nobody knows what consciousness is. You cannot ever know it. It's spirit. It's the animating force of life. It's that living aspect of beingness. It's the difference between a corpse and a live human being. That energy, what people may call energy. But as we start to become aware of the presence of that and start to understand that's what we are. And what we do is we think, and as we think, we believe certain things. And as we believe, so the world appears to us. Not to everybody else, to us. So this kind of puts reality, it takes it from an external reality, and it highlights, it illuminates the fact that within your being is the reality that I can only encounter my reality. My reality. And Jen can only encounter her reality. We think differently, so we don't always see eye to eye because our realities don't always line up. And you see, there's evidence for this where once you become aware of it, you become aware of this. You become aware of the. You start to see evidence for it, and as you start to see evidence for it, it grows, and you're like, "Wow, this is. I'm onto something. I'm onto something true here." And when we get onto something true, that's the exciting thing, because truth will set you free. There's people terrified all over the world. At the moment, well, one thing or another. It's really easy for us to blame the world for why we feel like we feel, and many people do. They don't realize, no, even whatever's going on in the world right now is a thought-generated experience for the individual. There is no escaping it. There is no time this isn't ever the case. From birth till death, we live in a psychological experience. And it will only ever be that. It can never be anything else, because we cannot step out of the psyche, the mind, the soul, the spirit. Cool. Thanks, guys.
It's just getting come. Rusty's breakdancing on the corner of the bed. He's not used to doing talks when there's like loads of other people in the house, so I can hear like people playing the guitar. There's people running up and down the stairs. Rusty's breakdancing, or has been in and out a few times. I think I love that. I love that you don't know what it is. Like, I feel different and I've got no idea what, because it shows how a shift in consciousness, everything looks different. And I think we're so used to going to look for the thought, or what did I do, or what was it, and to not actually know is closer to the truth, because it's something that shifts. Rusty's trying to now pick a bed. Come on, chill.
Come on, just sit down, Rust. Come on.
I love what you guys just said there. I really love what you just
Hi,
said.
you're lovely. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you, my lovelies?
Yeah, good.
I'm sorry. I don't know what the lady's name was who just spoke. I'm so sorry, but you spoke so beautifully, and you had such a beautiful vibe about you. I don't know, what was her name? Sorry. I don't want to be rude. Yeah, Sue. Absolutely. And you know what how you described it, and I think the key component to what you just said was that you don't want to know. You don't have to know. Don't question it. Don't just know that you now know.
Mm.
A lot of people don't know, and we're all trying to find what you've got. So actually just sit with that, and I feel that's such a blessing. And it's for me, what I heard in that moment is there's hope. There's hope. And I love that I heard that in your, I love that you emanated that that feeling in me without even having said it. So yeah, thank you so much for saying that.
Thanks.
Alia, that was beautiful as well, love. Yeah.
I think this is so much simpler than we think. And I think we live in a world where there is so much information, there's so many good ideas, there's so many incredible books, and there's so many amazing people kind of wanting to help people have more beautiful lives. And I think it's like it can drown out that the life stuff that's in us, that's already up and running and true. And it seems like if we get to have a moment where our mind settles, that stuff just rushes in and we get to experience it. And like you were saying, it's like it will teach you for the rest of your life. Like it's reminded you of what's already there, and then that stays with you. Like it used to, in my mind, be a bad thing. Someone said, you know, wherever you go, there you are. And that was the bad news for me, because like I've said it a few times before, but I remember my first year traveling, I was like so excited to arrive in Cape Town was the first place that we were going to be. And I somehow thought that being in Cape Town, I was going to suddenly be a different person. And I arrived and I was still me. And it was one of the most disappointing moments, because my mindset and my head came with me in that whole year travel. And I didn't get to experience some of the most beautiful places in the world in a very nice way, because I was just completely in my head. So I think just Paul, who's on as well tonight, like I love that he spoke beautifully on the retreat, but I love it's almost, I don't know what happened. I was listening to the retreat, I went for a walk, something's happened and I can't put it into words. And that not being able to put it into words bit speaks so much of the nature of this. Like it's this formless intelligence that moves and guides us and does the work for us. And I think there's somebody we've just worked with over 4 days, and she said, I really can take it off my to-do list to make myself better, can't I? And I was like, yeah, you can. Like, you don't have to work on yourself. You haven't got to try and fix yourself. Like, it's all the attention we put on what we think is wrong with us, what we think needs changing, what kind of thinking we don't like, that brings it to life. As we believe, so it is done, or whatever you said was from the Bible. And it feels like at the moment, it was actually Paul who inspired me to then share the retreat just openly on Facebook. And I said to my family, like, share it with anyone you think maybe would benefit, because I realized, God, this has been such a mad year for so many people, and we got to experience so many incredible people. Like we had about 40 people on the retreat at different times. 40 screens. And so many people shared beautiful things. I was like, right, this has to just go out a bit wider than our normal network. And I'm just in the process of uploading it onto YouTube, so it can just like float around on YouTube. Because I think people have had time this year. There's people that have had a lot of time with their own mind. And I think some people seem to have had their own experiences of kind of realization. And then other people, it seems they've gone down darker and deeper into the suffering and into their own mind. And I feel what Sydney Banks uncovered in 1973 is one of the simplest ways I've seen of pointing people to this. Because like you were saying, it's within Buddhism. I know that when we spoke to Ali, you're saying, you know, have you read the Quran? This sounds like the Quran. We're like, no, we've never read the Quran. And I know within the Jewish faith, people say, but what do you know about Judaism? And I'm like, not a lot. But this is at the heart. Like everyone's been trying to say and point to this, but it can get so lost. And I think to be alive in a time where a man had an insight, and then he's written books and there's audios, but in our language, like, and it hasn't had to be translated many times. Feels like such a blessing. And we, at the end of the 3-day retreat, we're like, we don't want it to end.
No.
Can everyone come back next
It's
Saturday?
such a good time.
So the following Saturday we had like a bit of a catch up with people, and that was beautiful because everyone then shared, and it was more of a sharing. And I think it is just that shift in feeling, and then when we leave it alone, it teaches us. But we're so used to like having a shift in feeling and then like wanting to know it and own it and do something with it. And it's almost like the opposite of what we've always been told. I think I think one of Sid's audios, you said it's in the opposite direction to what you think it is.
Mm.
And he said
Hi, Roma.
But at this point, has anyone got anything they did want to share, or questions they have, or anything they'd like us to talk about?
I'd like to share.
Margot, please.
So, you know, I've been around this understanding for a long time, and definitely can relate to, for me, it was like, wow, the search is over, you know, after so many decades of looking. But it's been interesting because I've been in this dance lately of not doing any things like this, any kind of being sort of in the community of people that have recognized this. And I've just been in this dance of just living my life and not putting a lot of attention on sort of, you know, really remembering this. And it's so interesting. I don't know. It's just so, you know, to just be doing that and, you know, seeing myself fall into places that maybe I wouldn't fall into if I did kind of keep up more of a awareness of it, you know? So I'm just exploring the extent to which I still have to be somehow keeping it in my conscious awareness. And I've been with people lately who don't have this understanding, and it does make it harder. And I have a friend who is a long way from being able to see, you know, I don't know, not distance wise, but just I tried to help her, but and then I have my husband who has gone over into the whole conspiracy QAnon thing. And so that's been kind of intense because, you know, we're one of those couples now that you've probably heard about that, you know, they can't really talk about politics because they're in different camps. And so, you know, it's hard to not go, wow, it'd be great if he sort of saw a little more of the getting caught up thing. So I don't know, I just felt like sharing. It's just good to be in this community and see you both, and to just, you know, be reflecting on, you know, how helpful it might be for me to do this more, because I'm finding when I'm surrounded by people who don't have this sort of kind of awareness, that it's more challenging, and you know, we're all susceptible to getting sucked into who's around us and how they see the world. And so I'm like, even though I've been around this understanding for so long, it's amazing how the old habits, like you've just been talking about, of how we were trained from when we were very small, those are still, they still show up. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Margot. You know, there's many people trying to change the world at the moment, you know, and there's many there's what looks like a big battle of dark and light taking place. Many people believe there is this big battle of dark and light taking place. Personally, I don't see that. Myself personally, I don't see that. I can see the illusion of that. I can see why people would say that is true. I think it can be really... Can you hear that? I don't know if... Is that niece or nephew?
I don't know.
It's one of...
We've got Rusty snoring and we've got
just madhouse.
people screaming.
But as human beings, we are so bought into this world of form, so bought into life. And when I say we're so bought into life, I don't mean the essence. I mean what it's doing, or what it appears to be doing to us. You know, you've got Margot and you've got the husband, who are both seeing entirely different realities. They're both looking at the same world, yet two of the closest people, two people who have known each other for a lot of years, who you could say would have woven this reality together, are seeing polar opposite realities. This is the nature of reality. Everybody sees a different reality. You know, and I know myself, I can be quite, I see it in myself and I see it in other people, very kind of suggestible. It's really suggestible. If I was to say something now about something, the large percentage of people could possibly just go, is that right? Oh, guess what I heard. So we get so bought into this world, into this reality, into this living state. But very few people have got awareness into the nature of it. And I feel like that is where the freedom lies. People are trying to change the world. In Buddhism, going back to Kelly, like in Buddhism, they say, don't try and change the world. You'll never do it. You can't change yourself and the world will change. Now, this happens on two levels as far as I'm concerned. It happens on a personal level, whereby an individual whose consciousness shifts, and there are people on this screen, in fact, I don't see anybody really on this screen who I'm really aware of that hasn't had that moment where they've had a sudden shift in consciousness, they've had an insight, where they suddenly go, can't explain it, but I feel different. There's something in this. It wasn't that the world changed, they changed. Their consciousness changed. And as the consciousness changed, a corresponding change in reality occurs. Just like that. This is the only thing that's ever taking place. And on the second level, this goes out because as people start to show up differently in the world, because ultimately what happens to many people when they come across this, they just become humble. They become normal human beings. They don't become like some frigging thing that has to wear white or... I mean, I am totally up for dancing around fires naked. Anybody who's up for that, I'm totally down with that. But we can do that, be dead spiritual. You know, we can be really, really spiritual, dead spiritual. Or we can just be normal human beings, because that makes no difference. We are still spiritual in essence. You know, people are trying to be spiritual. You cannot make yourself more spiritual than what you are. You are already spiritual. What's trying to be spiritual is an ego. We end up with this dead spiritual ego. You know, people with dead spiritual egos, these really spiritual people. No, they're just people trying to be spiritual. They're trying to be what they already are, but they're just not aware of that. So they go in search. They go on a search. And we get so wedded to the world. We get so wedded to this life, and very few people ask the question, what is it? I say it's time and time again. Everybody's walking through life, but nobody's questioning what the hell it is. What is life? What is consciousness? What is it to be alive? We're so mesmerized by what we think we know about life, yet we don't even know what life is. There's quite a telling statement. We think we know something about this world. We think we know something about that person, that politician, that system. But nobody knows what life is. I have an argument to this, which is, how can we truly know anything about this world when we don't even know what it's created from? People go, oh, I do know what it's created from. What is it? It's all energy. Everything's energy. Okay, well, what's that? What's energy? People go, it's all God. Well, what's God? It's true. The world is made of a substance that you cannot get your head around. No scientist can measure it. No scientist can weigh it. No scientist can hold it. No scientist can observe it through a microscope. We can't contain it. It is all things. All things are made from it. And it is a deeply aware state. It knows all things because it is all things. It is you and I. It is Jen. It's the dog. It's the noise. It's the house. It's the coronavirus. It's the entire universe. Everything is that. It's a singular event. Playing the game of multiple events via the state of consciousness that it creates for every single person. It's a mad thing when you start to think about it. But when you start to think about it, it starts to make sense. And you realize that ultimately what people are afraid of is themselves. People are afraid of themselves. They're afraid of their own minds. People are terrified about the future. I have got no idea what the future looks like. And I don't know a single person on earth who really does. I know plenty of people who've got hypotheses. But I've listened to those people in the past who had hypotheses about the future, and they weren't accurate. So I personally sit in the camp of I don't know. I don't know. And I find that when I'm in the camp of I do not know, it means I can listen to both sides. In Buddhism, walk the middle ground. Walk the middle road. Well, there's people so far off on the left at the moment that they can't hear the right, and there's people so far off on the right at the moment they can't hear the left. Nobody's talking to each other. Everybody's talking and nobody's listening. And I feel like what happens to people who, when they start to wake up to the nature of who they are, what this is pointing to, which is ultimately where people find that peace when their mind quietens down. It's interesting. Kelly just mentioned that. You know, when all the noise and the chatter starts to quieten down, you start to find this peace. What is it that's truly creating the upset feelings? Is it the world or is it our minds? I know it, for me, I remember it being the good news. Like, fuck, it's my mind and not the world. I don't have to change the world. And my mind will just quieten itself at some point. I remember that being one of the most refreshing things for somebody who tried to avoid anger and depression and anxiety and violence and stupidity. But yeah, if you look at the world at the moment, it is a direct reflection of the state of mankind's mind. You know, there's some terrible things. Terrible things have always taken place in the world, and they're continuing to happen. But these are people who are so lost in thoughts, so lost in beliefs. It's not that, this is why I say I don't see a battle between dark and light, personally. I know that all there is light with the ability to think it's itself dark. Everybody is made of love. At the heart of all life is this force called love. And why do we say love? What is it about love? Why does it have to be love, Dave? Well, it just is. And the way I personally feel like people can get a sense of it, have they not kind of woken up within themselves and found this space of love? The way you can kind of logically explain that love is the essence of the universe is by falling into love. When we fall in love. Because the moment we fall in love with somebody, there is not a problem in them. There's not a problem in the world. There is connection. I'm not a massive fan of the word connection. And it's simply because, here we go, some lip gloss, I was going to get this everywhere. To connect is to take two or three or four or multiples and make one. But that's not the case. Everything is singular, making many. The illusion of making many. So it's not that we're all connected, we're all simply one happening, one event, one phenomenal event, one inexplicable event. And when an individual falls in love, they suddenly feel this connection. They feel this connection to another person. When I fell in love with Jen, I felt so connected. Then you fall in love with their family and you feel connected to the family. And it's a recognition of truth. That's what love is. The moment an individual falls in love, I love this place, you feel connected to it. I love this song, I feel connected to it. I love this painting. You feel a connection to the painting, I love this person. And what people tend to find is when they wake up to this, they fall in love with life. They're like, oh, I love my life. I wanted to take it 2 weeks ago. Now I love my life. It's interesting. It's become a playground. So you see that love is the thing that binds. Fear is the thing that creates the illusion of separation. Because fear only exists in duality. There has to be somebody to be afraid and something to be afraid of in the world. Well, that's a dualistic mind, that's a divided mind, that's a divided soul, that's a divided spirit. You can't divide the spirit, it's just metaphorical, it only exists in our mind. Does this division, it's a thought, it's a belief. When there is a shift happening in the world, and since I've woken up, I see it massively growing. There is this force growing in the world of people questioning. They're questioning many things. And this question is kind of leading people down the lines of self-discovery through one form or another. I personally feel like there's this great shift, there's this great movement towards the coming togetherness of human and nature, when humanity is recognizing it is nature. It's not separate. It's never been separate from nature. It is nature. The separations only existed in our egos, in our thought system, that we believe that we're separate to nature because human beings think and animals don't think. Human beings have consciousness. Animals do have this basic consciousness. Or human beings think and have consciousness and trees don't. They're just trees. But people are starting to wake up and realize, oh no, trees are conscious thinking beings. All life is a conscious thinking state. But then we stop there. And that's where I feel like this inquiry brings the whole thing together, where the individual can start to inquire into, well, what is thought? What is thought? What is this stuff that I've been doing since I was born but never questioned? What is this mysterious force? What's it doing? What does it truly do? Why do we have it? And that was the inquiry that was born for me when I listened to Sid. As people start to wake up and they start to wake up from within themselves and they start to wake up to love, they come out of the darkness, Kel, and they start to find this peace. It's like, you see, it can happen for anybody in a moment. There are so many people who are waking up to this now. They're having an impact on their surrounding people, who are having an impact on their surrounding people, who are having an impact on their surrounding people. Not everybody's going to wake up to it in this lifetime. No, they're not. But it doesn't need everybody to wake up to it. for the world to undergo a cataclysmic shift in consciousness. It would need a percentage. And that percentage of people is gaining force. It's gaining force. I think it was Jesus said, the second coming of Christ will not be a man showing up. It will be when enough people recognize Christ consciousness being the consciousness that creates. We are all that. Everybody is that, creating their own reality. So I think a lot of people feel like the world's going to hell. I don't see that personally. I think the world's going through some interesting times.
Earlier, where I think it was in the book we were reading this morning that said during I think it was a book written in the 1920s, and he was saying, you know, during the war, there was, I think he said it was like 15 million people had died in this war, and he wasn't putting a judgment on that. And he said, but the birds were still singing, life was still happening, there was still beauty. And I think at the moment, sort of going back a little bit to what Margot was saying, you can see we've got all this polarization happening. We've got people who believe one way and then people that believe the complete opposite on so many things. Like you've got the people about the climate, then the people that deny the climate. There's the people that are kind of believe the mainstream view of the what's happening with the COVID, and then you've got the people who believe the alternative views, and you can see all this kind of opposing views. And I feel like that, coming back to ourselves, like one of the first things I heard in this understanding was be selfish. And it was kind of the first time I'd ever really heard someone just saying that. And they said, by you being selfish and seeing this for yourself, the way you show up in the world will change. And we don't have any idea of, like, the impact of me learning about this has been amazing in terms of like my family, and then with my ex-husband Rudy creating the Three Principles movie site and who we got to meet through that. Like it just spread exponentially. And it was through initially me getting really selfish and seeing this for myself and starting to find my own mental health and my own peace of mind. And I've been so grateful to, initially I had a small group in my local town who used to meet up once a week. And it was just a reminder, because the opposite of what we're talking about tonight is kind of everywhere around us. Like movies, the news, advertising, it's all this kind of idea that there's an external world that we are victim to, or there's something in the world that we need to create our happiness. So you can see how easy it is to get lost. And I think I feel grateful that we get to touch base with this all the time, whether it be with each other or we do a group, or we've got one-to-ones, or we do the retreat. Because I always remember someone saying to me, like, you learn about gravity at such a young age, this principle of gravity, and we don't forget it. How can we learn about this and like see it and feel so freed from it, and then get like totally lost in thought again? And it's like, well, it's so compelling, it can be so convincing, but once you know, and that will be the thing that guides you and wakes you up again. Can you just turn the thing?
Yeah, sorry.
Can't see everyone's face. Yeah. So we've got the chat box up. I'm one of the most distractible people you've ever met.
You are. I'm probably most distracting.
You are quite distracting. But I think there's been times in my life where I've realised I need to have a bit of a break from the Three Principles and editing videos on it and talking to people. I just want to live. And I think that's been the balance that I've learned over the last 15 years of keeping in touch with it and having the conversation, because it's amazing and beautiful, and then going out and experiencing life from new understanding. Like, what does life look like now? Learning from the times when I've got lost again and kind of caught up in something. And I think this year has been an incredible time for us in terms of our understanding, because we had a lot of time just being, and we're up in the Lake District walking. We weren't allowed to go camping. You got these huge fines, so we put tents out in the garden, and we were camping in the garden and just getting really, really quiet. And it was, what is it? What is our message? What is it we'd like to share with the world? And we've come out from sort of September time really ready to put freedom thinking out there again and run retreats, and it's from a very different place. And I think we've both gone through quite a lot of shifts, and I think like you would have always been someone that got caught up in trying to convince everyone of the alternative view, or trying to convince everyone of your view. Whereas this time it's like we've been so much more interested in listening to people. Like, how do you see it? What's going on for you? What makes sense for you? And I think when we take responsibility for our own experience, like our listening gets so much better. When it's not personal, and when we're not trying to defend, and when we don't need someone else to see life like we do, we listen in a completely different way. And I think right now in this world, the world needs people to listen to one another and listen to themselves. And I think that's something that comes where when we start to identify with that source, that mind, that place in which we are all the same, when we identify with that space, and we're not so identified with our character and our ideas and our beliefs, our creation, our reality, we get less wedded to that. We listen deeper. We hear people. And I think one of the things I loved when Dr. Roger Mills was teaching us, he said, there's times when I listen and I'm listening through the understanding of the principles and I'm still not hearing. He said, because I've got this idea that I want to share with someone. And he said, and there's times that I just drop into this place of listening. And it's like you get to hear where that person's coming from. And it's not in the content of the words. You get to hear whether they're hurt. You get to hear whether they're in fear. And it's such a different way of listening to people, because we're so used to looking at behaviour, and we're looking
an objective listening, isn't it?
Yeah, because we're not looking at what's being presented almost. And I think that's where we then suddenly get insight of what to say, and it shocks you kind of what comes out, because you didn't even realise you were going to say that, because it becomes less and less personal. And I've loved the last 15 years because I've learned so much about the nature of my mind. I've been totally humbled by how powerful thought can be in terms of it creates reality. And if you're having a reality you don't like being created and you're totally bought into it, you're along for the ride. And I've realized I can go along for a ride and then I pop out and I wake up again, and you're like, whoa, how did I get so lost again? And the compassion and the love that kind of then brings to you, because when you look in other people, you're like, wow, I get it. I get how you could be so caught up in that reality and it looks so real to you that you will defend it and you will argue it. And I think that's where it's easier to be with people who have that opposing view, because we recognize that we are going to be blinded by our own realities sometimes, but to have an awareness, like, that's the gift. And I think before understanding, I didn't really have any awareness that my reality wasn't, I just went with it and I judged other people, and now my reality still looks totally real, and I can still go with it and get lost, but the awareness is there. And I think, like you often say, sometimes when you've sort of gone into a darker mood, there's a part of you that's quite excited, like, what am I going to learn through this? What's going to be on the other side of this? And suddenly life doesn't seem as kind of serious. And like we were talking to someone the other day, like, why did we say life was so serious? When did we learn that? Oh yeah, you go to school at 4 years old and we learn to be serious, and you must sit up straight and you must have your legs crossed on the carpet and you must line up and you mustn't talk and you need to do well because then you need to get to secondary school.
Life's serious.
And you realise we've kind of bought into this idea and we don't play anymore.
The world is so serious.
Like when we hang out with my nephew, he's like, he doesn't really want, I'm like, he doesn't want to talk about what he did at school today. He's 8. He's like, I don't want to talk about what I did at school today. I want to make stupid noises, and I want to show you that I can do fart noises with my underarm. And he's got no thinking really about what's happening in the world, and he's still in this same world that we're in. Yeah. And like, I've loved having that time with him because it's playing in life. And I don't know, I think we have this idea that if we're not serious, or if we're not taking it seriously, then we don't care.
Yeah.
But I feel like I care more about the world when I'm in a neutral place than when I'm urgent and think I know what it needs or what people need to do. And I think that's born of the understanding again. Like you get to touch that place of peace, recognize there's something true that you can't put into words, and then you learn and you learn and you learn, and you get lost. And then and I think there's quite a few people on this call. Like I know Mel, you said you kind of went right into the principles for a long time, and then you had a child and you kind of went off and you didn't really investigate into it much, and you were just living and you were still learning and still having insights, and and then at some point you wanted to come back.
Yeah, all the time. And then a few months ago I just had a few things happening in my work that I had no control over, and it was quite scary. And it's all okay now, but I realized how little control I had over everything, over the situation. But actually, if that had have happened a few years ago, for example, when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I would have been trying to take control of the situation. And actually this time I didn't. It was really weird. It was a completely different experience. Like the experience was quite negative, but I had a different experience of it, and it was still scary and it was still overwhelming. But I didn't feel the need to try and control it the way I did before, because every time I went into that place, I kind of went into it, but I knew it wasn't real. I knew it was my experience of it. And it wasn't to say it wasn't a serious situation, because it felt serious, and it could have turned out negatively. But yeah, I used to think that I used to have this place of like a dark cloud kind of place. But one thing I learned years ago, that place isn't real. It isn't anywhere. It isn't anywhere. Like I can't go there. So even if I start to feel this thing that used to feel very personal to me, I used to think, oh, I've gone into this dark place, and that's probably because my dad is depressed, and all these reasons. Like I'm just like, well, I'm not anywhere. I am just feeling something that's going on, and like the lady said earlier, like, I don't even care what it is anymore. I just feel it and I experience it, and it goes. Something you just was saying about kids, like on the retreat, I was listening to Dickon talking about that, and I realised the other day I was in the kitchen and my daughter was running around and the music came on and I was singing. I would sing in front of any adult, because I can't sing, but I comfortably just sing in front of my daughter. And I realised it's because I wasn't conscious, but with children and animals, there's no judgment, is there? They don't. So I can comfortably sing in front of my daughter because I know that she has no thinking about, oh, mummy's got a terrible voice, or mummy can't sing, or mummy, and it probably doesn't sound relevant to anything, but it's just that innocence in children, that non-judgment, and that. But as soon as we get older, it all just comes in, doesn't it, in layers? And it's just childlike. Why don't we play? Like, why? I mean, I do. I make sure we do, and I hope my daughter's going to stay like that for a long time. But yeah, sorry, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but it's been so brilliant to come back in. And it's like Margot was saying, I came back into it because I was having a bit of a hard time, and I just wanted to be around it again. And I felt like I didn't have anyone around me with this kind of understanding. It was just lovely to have that support again and be back in it. But I know it was so impactful for 5 years ago that was never going to leave me, and it never has, and I know it never will. Life change, and so lovely to hear everyone talking about their experiences, because again, I just find it fascinating that it's not intangible, but we're all sitting here going, it's amazing. We don't really, like, I love that. Like, no one knows anyone else's experience of it, do they? But we're all something and nothing, isn't it? Something and nothing.
Nothing. It's interesting. I remember having a conversation with this person, and they'd just totally woken up, and they just talked bollocks for about 5 minutes. And I just talked bollocks back at them, and I said, people, we must sound fucking mad. I said, yeah. I know that I totally understand what you're saying. It makes no sense in kind of language, but she was saying all these words. I'm like, yeah. To the individual listening who didn't really understand. 1 second. No. Kinder Bueno. I love that.
it goes to that, like you say, I love that when you said about connection. It's not connection because that has to be two things. But once there's something seen and everyone's seeing it, that it is one. So you can just talk anything. It doesn't matter because there's knowing, isn't there? There is knowing. There's not even two knowings meeting. There is knowing. And you could almost just sit and smile about it because it's like,
To truly talk about it, to truly describe it, you would just say nothing.
Yeah.
It's like if somebody was to describe this, what we're ultimately talking about, they wouldn't say a single word.
No, you find yourself off, don't you? I find myself, as soon as I start to, I just get quieter and quieter. And even the other day I left a message for Jenny, and there was a bit of me that wanted to go and think about something, but the moment in my head I was like, I need to go and think about this, and then instantly I was like, no, I don't need to think about this. Like, it's very intuitive now for me to, like, logically I can say I need to think about this, but my body very quickly, instantly is like, no, you don't need to think about this. You just, the quieter I get, just, again, it's not even like I get quiet, I get happy, I get quiet, everything's okay. It's just everything is, it is what it is, isn't it? And it
is what it is.
Perfect.
And that's another beautiful thing to bring up, is that, when you really start to kind of observe life, when you start to become interested in life, it's not that we're getting interested in my life, how my life's showing up. We've done that to frigging death. Oh, I feel like this, or I feel like that, or I have this thought, I have that thought. We're forever looking at the creation that is taken form, mesmerized by it. And, this is where humanity gets stuck. Gets so mesmerized by the experience. Donald Trump is a conscious thinking being who is totally experiencing a reality that looks entirely true and real to him as mine does to me. Boris Johnson's the same, Kim Jong-un, whatever he's called, I don't know how to pronounce his name, is a conscious thinking state, the same as me. But our realities are so convincingly real to us. The lucky people are those that start to inquire into the nature of it. Because very few people even consider inquiring into it. But those lucky few which is growing, it is a minority at the moment on the planet, but it's growing fast. I mean, I cannot believe how much this has spread in 8 years. I cannot believe how fast this has grown. And to all the different countries, what have we got in here now? We did have America just before. We did have South Africa just before, and now I think we've just got, it's all Britain, I think. And Scotland, we've got a bit of Scotland in the corner. Nice one, Susan, representing. But it's like when we stop being mesmerized, when we stop being mesmerized by our experience, what our experience is doing or what the world appears to be doing, and we start to inquire into the nature of it. I often say, you ask bigger questions, you'll get bigger answers. There's a point at which you become aware that wherever you focus your attention, whatever you look at, wherever you focus your consciousness, and you can focus consciousness at will. I'm sure we've sat in a restaurant and kind of tuned into somebody else's conversation because we're just being nosy. I have, tons of times.
You butt in?
Yeah, sometimes I've butted in. I'm like, excuse me, couldn't help but overhearing what you were saying. We can tune this awareness in at will. But wherever we place this gift of consciousness, if we place it on our visual, on our sense of sight, our sight becomes kind of more focused on what we're looking at. You can really kind of focus on it, and you will gain a deeper experience of that you're looking at. If you shift the attention into your ears, you become like more audibly aware to the detriment of all the other senses. And then you kind of, if you shift your attention to a texture or feeling, you become immersed in it. It becomes an immersion in the reality that you encounter. And you start to see that wherever we place our attention, a reality, an experience, and I'm using those two words to describe the same thing, you cannot have a reality without experience. There needs to be the experiencer over there to be a reality. Otherwise, there is no point in a reality. And this is what consciousness does. It gives a point to life. It is the point of life. It is the point of living. It's just itself. Itself is the point that it can create an experience and play the game of life. And it's like when we start to become aware of the rules of the game, then we start to play the game different. I know of no person, I know people who come across this and become arrogant, think they know something about the principles, but I don't know of a single person whose mind doesn't start to open when they start to become aware. When they start to have shifts in consciousness, their mind naturally becomes a more open state. And when I say open, I mean they're more interested in different things. They become less interested in themselves. How am I doing? Oh, my reality. They become more interested in other people. They become more interested in new ways of being. The mind's open. See, there's a beautiful thing I just read just there. I think it was it.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Leon actually. It was Flick. Beautiful. I'm really glad you put this because I've never heard this before. It's so beautiful. Plato argued that human beings are imprisoned in the cave of their own existence, falsely believing the temporary has permanence. You know, that's describing our state, our creation. That creates has never gone anywhere. Have we ever become aware of that? You know, we were there. When I say we were there, I was there when I was born. I was there when I was 5. I was there when I was 10. I was there when I was 13 and rushed to hospital in a football accident. I was there at 21 when I went to prison. I was there when I had problems with drugs and alcohol. I was there when I went through a divorce at 32, 33. I was there when I woke up. I'm here now. I've never gone anywhere, but my experience has always changed. I've lived in this continuously changing experiential state. But I was always there to observe it. And you see, when we start to become aware of that, we start to locate ourselves more as an observational force than what's created. That's not always seen. I want to make this really clear. It's not always seen, but just becoming aware of that fact, that our experience, like Plato argued, falsely believing the temporary as permanence. What is the temporary? Well, the temporary is the feeling states, it's a thought experience, it's the reality we generate. It's in a constant state of change. Sometimes things look really hard, and sometimes things look really stressful, and then sometimes things look really scary. And then all of a sudden they stop looking scary for whatever reason. And now they look like this, and but each time it looks real. It always looks real. And because it looks real, we buy into it. Until somebody like Plato goes along and goes, do you realize you keep looking at something that's always changing? Stop looking at what's always changing and start to become aware of what's always present. Because when you become aware of what's always present, you found a constant you can absolutely depend upon. That changes has to be illusory. It feels real now until it doesn't. Till it feels like that. Till it feels like this. Till it feels like that. Till it feels like this. We're trying to make sense of the world. Humanity is so lost. It's trying to make sense of the world because it doesn't know that there are 7.7 billion different separate realities walking around on the face of planet Earth. It doesn't know there are 7.7 billion different human realities walking around the face of planet Earth. It thinks there's one reality and everybody else is fucking stupid. That's where the majority of humanity is at. Why would you say that? Why would you do that? God, you're stupid. No, they're living in their own reality. They see their own reality that looks true to them. 7.7 billion separate realities walking the face of planet Earth right now. Somewhere around that figure. A shite load. We call it in Cumbria a shite load. Shite load of separate realities walking around on the face of planet Earth right now. Each believing that their reality is true and real. What does that mean about our reality? How real who is it who sees the true reality? Which is the person who sees the correct reality? 7.7 billion different experiences taking place. You start to see that the reality that we see is not seen by everybody else. Therefore, it has to be something going on in this life that we are not seeing, that we've not been aware of. We've not been aware that reality ultimately is a spiritual experience. And I say spiritual describing that you cannot know. The godness in all people. The singleness of all people. That is absolutely present. Who here is I? Everybody puts the hand up. So of course I'm me. Am I am. The reason why Jesus apparently was crucified was because he said, before Abraham, I am. And it was taken, oh, so you're saying you came before Abraham? No. I am. Everybody is I am. I am Dave. I am happy. I am sad. I am depressed. I am anxious. I am joyful. I am hungry. I am tired. I am a man. I am heterosexual. I am homosexual. I am blah, 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 blah. The I am never goes anywhere. The I am is the truest state of being. But we then stop identifying with the I am and we identify with the label that we give it afterwards. I am anxious. I am anxiousness. That's what I'm anxious. I am depressed. I am worried. I am this. I am that. We identify with that, not realizing that the thing that we've identified with is in a constant state of change or has the ability to change. We don't identify with that doesn't go anywhere. The presence of life itself that we all ultimately are. And everybody is it. There is one life living this universe. People call it God. People call it Allah on here. We've had Hashem on here. Islam. We've had Judaism on here. We've probably got Christian here, Catholic. Doesn't matter. It's all talking about exactly the same force. Where everybody's talking about the same thing. In physics, they call it energy or the quantum field. The place from which all things come. Which is no thing, but is everything. And it's like when we start looking at this point, the world starts to take on a different character. The world starts to take on the character of something far more mystical and magical. Not clockwork and TikTok. And my friend, Miss Friend Sue, who introduced me to this, she used to call it people live in TikTok land, Dave. And I love that, TikTok land.
She must have had a prediction about TikTok.
She probably did, yeah, she probably did.
Our nieces live in TikTok.
They live in TikTok land. But she called it TikTok land, where people live in time and are affected by things, not realizing that the only thing they're actually affected by is their own mind, because that's the only thing that's actually taking place, that we're ever experiencing. It's like I've never experienced Jenny's reality. She could talk to me. It hit me a few weeks ago. The only reason why we actually have language is because it's evidence that we live in separate reality. There would be zero need for language if we didn't all live in a different reality, because we would all just know. we would see reality and we would just act accordingly. But the fact that we each see a different world means that we have to then communicate between these 7.7 billion different worlds. We have to be able to figure out a way of communicating how we feel about something, how we see something, what we think about it, what we think. Therefore, we generated the language. We created language to convey messages between these different worlds that walk the same planet. So you see, there is evidence for this fact everywhere. And I personally feel like it's one of the most beautifully liberating things when we start to look into this. It starts to make sense of the world. And all of a sudden, those evil people, you realize they're not evil. They're not evil people. They're people that think differently to us, which they are perfectly entitled to. People are totally entitled to think however they wish, whether I like it or not. Sometimes I really don't like that fact, but they are totally entitled to. And you see, people are just doing what makes sense to them, given the way they see the world. I feel like there's so much forgiveness in that. There's so much kindness in that. And that is the thing that's going to free the world, is kindness. If the world needs freeing, is kindness, is love, is compassion, is understanding. There you have the absolute fertile ground to free the world. Kindness, love, and understanding. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Do you have a quick break?
Yeah, that's okay.
We normally have about 5 or 10 minutes just so people can get cups of tea.
You can go for a wee. So if we
come, because I need the toilet.
Should we come back in 10 minutes?
So it'll be 1:30.
1:30. Cool. Stop recording, pause.
Pause.
Good. Right, welcome back, everyone. What did Leanne say? Once I found I was living from love, I don't almost act with thought. I act with love so often towards people I never believed I could show kindness and compassion towards. Until after I've done it. And then I'm like, wow, where did that come from? I'm not thinking about living from love. I'm even angry at moments. And what comes out is just love. None at all. Love to all. Oh, bless her, she's gone.
We're 2 hours ahead.
Yeah, Leanne's in South Africa. So 2 hours ahead. All right. Anybody got any questions, comments, statements? Any other use of the English language?
Hi everyone. So the only thing I'd like to put across from since I've last seen everyone is again how thankful I am to all this, because I didn't realise, it's only just clicked in the last few days that without me ego really gardeners, life is now so simple and so much more fun, because everything, I'm still hot-headed and there's still been times where I'm like gritting my teeth in my head if a thought comes in and I let it get hold and I concentrate on it. But even that, it's such a short period of time and I'm able to move on and smile. So me and Claire, if we've had words or if Claire's feeling really stressed about our relationship in the past, I'm not answering things anywhere with any kind of negativity or aggressiveness or defensiveness. I'm just being me right now, and because of that, I can just smile like this. I've been Christmas shopping with me mum, my brother, and my nieces and nephews today, and I was running around a sports shop with them, playing hide and seek, and one of my nieces turned around and said, "God, Uncle Paul, why are you so happy?" And that comment was just amazing. And another thing, there's a coffee shop in Sunderland that I go to quite often, and I was chatting to the girl while she was making me coffee, and telling her about this new thing that I've been looking into and taking part in. And when I finished talking, she turned to us and she said, Paul, like, you've just given off such amazing positive energy. So it's so nice to see that from you. And that's what, since I've done this retreat, that's what every day has been like. The ups and downs still come, that the highs and lows, but they just disappear so quick, allowing us just to smile. And I'm so hugely grateful for. And yeah, and I've had another week where I haven't used, so that's now it's probably close to 6 weeks, but I've kind of knocked it back a week so I can have my 6-week celebration on Christmas Eve. So, and again, I was chatting to a guy on Monday who I work with sometimes, and he asked us how I was getting on with me demons, like me drug addiction, and I turned around and I said, I'm not even thinking about it. It's taken no effort to stay off, none whatsoever. And this has been it's due to the words from yourselves, from Dave and Jen on the first day of that retreat. So thank you from my heart.
Thanks. I was just going to say, I'm guessing you were doing the seeking. I can't imagine you being able to hide in a shop like 6'6".
It's fucking enormous, that lad.
Oh, thanks, Paul. It was so nice to meet you guys last week. It was
lovely. Really beautiful.
And like I said, I don't know if you heard actually at the beginning, but the reason I shared the retreat on Facebook was because of what happened for you on day one. And we were like, after you shared, I think it was after lunch you shared, we were like, the whole thing's worth it just for that moment of listening to you, and then to continue to stay in the conversation with you and meet up. And I think that something kind of, I felt so re-inspired by it all. Like, it's not that I'd lost my inspiration with it, but there was something about that, the simplicity of it, and just how a shift in consciousness brings a whole new world, and then it ripples out. Like, everyone you've met, like the person you're chatting to, and then like your nieces and nephews noticing, and it's like it spreads. When we shift, we show up in the world different, and then other people start to get a sense of it, or they're interested in it. And like Roger Mills always used to say, it's like one person at a time. He said that ripple, you have no idea how far it will reach.
He reckoned you needed about 20% of a community to kind of wake up to the change, to wake up, about 20%, and that 20% would change the entire community. So you see, it's such an interesting thing. And I love, it's not based in time, you know. None of this is based in time. It's not the more you are around it, the more deeply you can see it. You know, some people wake up like bang, Paul. Some people it's drip, drip, drip. It really doesn't matter. It truly doesn't. Everybody wants something massive. The more you want it, the more you're saying you're not already it. That's the problem. The more we go in search of something, we have an idea of what we actually think we're searching for. And then we measure the experience up against what we've kind of created within our own mind as to what we think we're searching for, and we never find it. Because it was an idea that we've gone in search of, not truth. When people start to find truth, the easiest people I find to work with are those that do not have a frigging clue. Do you know, have you ever read of the principles? No. Oh, good. Good. Those that have kind of read and they're like, they've seen, oh, this person had a really big shift. And they go, oh, I want that. I want what you had. You had. No, they've used their imagination. They've generated an experience of what they think that individual has had, and then they go in search of this generated experience that they've created. They don't wake up and realize the simplicity. No, you are already that you were looking for. What you are looking for lies within your being. You are it. It's you minus the story of what you think you are. Flick, are you waving in your darkness?
Have questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, lighting is terrible. Is that better? Hello? I think you can kind of see me. Yeah, that like twigs something that I realized today. Like I have chronic pain, which is how I came across the 3 principles, because a lot of people have used it to recover from pain or fatigue and other physical symptoms. And people have said like, oh, you need to be okay with your pain and be okay with this experience of pain, and you accept it and know you might have it for the rest of your life. And I've really resisted that and not really understood why I needed that. But today I had a massive insight where I was like, I could live with the pain, not because I'm okay with being in pain, because being in pain sucks, but because I've just realized like the pain is not me in a new way. Today I really saw it as like an experience I'm having rather than me. So I'm like, oh, it's basically like just having a dog for the rest of my life. I'm not saying it's my preferred way of living, but today I had a massive shift in like, oh yeah, well, it's not me. So if this dog's coming along for the rest of my life, that's cool. My next life, I probably won't have it. So I've been thinking about like my whole life being 90 plus years, 100 plus years. This is 5 years of shit maybe. But then if I think about my soul and what that's experiencing, this is a tiny dot. And I'm like, okay, if this is my bad pain time, then I'm cool with that, because I know it's not really me. So it's like separated out in a new way today. So it doesn't suck as much, which is cool. So I understand who I am more. So that's why I was like tagging on to that, Dave. Thank you for letting me.
I am in pain. It's that thing, isn't it? It's that I am an addict. We identify with the bit that isn't I am.
That's it.
And that thing has the ability to change in a moment. Addicts aren't always addicts. Even an addict that calls themselves an addict isn't always an addict. They're only an addict when their consciousness falls upon the substance or behaviour.
I think you can say that you're also not in pain unless you're thinking about it.
Say that again, love.
I think a lot of people say, and I've realised this, you're not in pain unless you look for it or you think about it.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you can have a bad back or something. I'm sure we've all had pain. We've all experienced pain. We're human beings. We've got nervous systems. But when we're watching a film or something like that, and the consciousness is drawn away from the pain towards the screen and there's what's being said, it's amazing how the pain quietens down. It does. Perhaps sometimes it even disappears. I know I remember suffering from depression. I am depressed. Suffering from depression. And then watching this film and laughing my head off. And it's like, where was my depression in that moment? My depression did not exist. And this is such an important, the moment is a really important thing to kind of get a sense of. Because now is the only time that exists. Now is the only time we ever have to get through. Everybody's trying to get through the future. They're trying to get through the past. Oh, what happened, what I saw, what happened to me, what I believed, oh, what I was told back then. People live so much in time. But time ultimately doesn't exist. The mind doesn't travel through time. Time travels through the mind. The mind generates time. The mind creates the illusion of time with this thing called memory and this thing called imagination. We remember the past. Thought. We imagine a future. Imagination. Thought. there is only the very present moment. And so you could almost say that the entirety of now and the future, the entirety of the future and the past is now. We tend to live like either the future is becoming the past. What the now is the future becoming the past. That's what the now is. Or the now is the past becoming the future. No, it's neither. Now is the most specific thing. It's nothing to be glossed over. It's something to become very aware of. It's forever now. The rest of it is an illusion of our mind. The rest of it is concepts and ideas of time. But time in itself doesn't actually exist. We have illusions of time, for example, change. But I'm aging. Time must exist. I'm aging. No, change is a constant that takes place in the now. The only time change takes place. Change cannot take place last week. It doesn't exist. Change cannot take place next week. It does not exist. Change only takes place now. We're living in a continuous now of ever-changing changeness. And when we start to see that, it makes sense, and the mind quietens down, because individuals who live more in the now are aware, well, I can think about the future and drive myself fucking mental, or I can become aware that it doesn't exist. It is me generating an experience of what the future will look like, may look like, could look like, probably won't look like. Now, that's me doing that and undergoing the experience. People are terrified of the future. They don't realize they're generating the experience themselves via thought. They're thinking the future now. 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 All those clicks are gone forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Gone. We can never get that back. Jesus said, become a passerby. Understand you are seeing each moment for the first and last time. Become aware of that. Passerbys don't hold on to the past and carry it with them. Understand the past is gone and live in the moment. Become aware of the moment. Because the moment is truth. We're back to another truth, another fact. The moment doesn't go anywhere. We're only ever in the now, with change taking place through the now, not now taking place through change. With time existing in the mind, not the mind existing in time. Mind generates the illusion of time. Time is a thought. But we don't see this on a day-to-day, everyday level, and we've developed clocks. Of course time exists there. There's 24 hours in a day. Now, we made that up. 365 days in a year. We made that up. And then we measure space against it. How long it takes one planet to revolve around the sun, our sun, one sun in multi-trillions of suns, and we measure space in that measurement. It's just a measurement. It's a measurement that we generated, like inches or feet or meters or kilometers. We made it up. They don't exist outside of the thought. Like money doesn't exist outside of the belief system. Money's just a belief. It only works because we all believe in it. It's not a force of nature. It's not a fact. If money stopped being circulated tomorrow, we would all continue to live. It would still be the now. We would still be conscious thinking beings. The sun would still rise and the plants would still grow. It's mad what we kind of live in as truth, which ultimately isn't truth. As we start to see this, it's like life becomes simpler. And there's something so, human beings are so afraid of the unknown. That's why human beings are so afraid of the future. Because it's the unknown, isn't it? What's life? As we start to gain understanding into life, we start to fear it less. You know, in non-duality, in singleness, there is nothing to be afraid of. It's just it afraid of itself. It becomes illogical. It becomes, when people start to see that, it becomes an illogical thing. whatever the world does is it doing it to itself. It's consciousness doing it to itself. It's God doing it to itself. But it's doing it to itself through all these things that think it's not it. Think they're all separate from one another. Think they're all separate from nature.
I was thinking that was what was nice in what you saw today, Flick, is it feels like when we have that recognition that I'm not that, that is not me. I think there's even a book with the similar title, but we start putting our attention on that which we are and not that which we're not. And I think it seems that we need to sort out that which we're not before we can experience that which we are. And it feels like today some switch has happened in you and you're like, okay, this may be what's here, but that's not who I am. So then the deeper question is, well, what is that I amness? What is that place that exists, that isn't bound in time, that isn't born and doesn't die? And I think that inquiry so often takes us away from that we're not. And I know that, like someone said the other day, that they wake up and it's almost like they do a body scan, but they're looking for negative feelings or anxiety or fear, or they're looking for something to be wrong, and then they fixate on it.
And they'll find it.
And I think so often,
you go looking for something, you'll find it.
if people have had pain and chronic pain, they'll wake up and we start doing the body scan of like looking for it. And if we've just kind of had an insight, okay, that pain is not me, it might be that our focus has shifted away from that onto something else. And as our attention changes, our experience changes, and we get gifted new ideas or insight in terms of our own life and what may be helpful. And it's cool to see that you're just minding your own business and then suddenly you get an insight about this. And suddenly it looks a bit different. And it was so in your language, like it's not something you've heard someone else say, it's just something that's occurred from within you. And I think that's the beauty of this. Like it's like it's one size fits all, but it's not one size fits all. There's one thing that is being shared, like this recognition of that totality. And then what comes from that is so perfect for us. Yeah. Like things that you've seen, like I realized that I had this kind of list of feelings that were totally unacceptable for me as a human being. I didn't do.
Wrong feelings.
So when I came across the principles, I described it as suddenly all feelings were put on the table, and I was allowed to feel upset, I was allowed to feel angry, and that was a feeling I didn't do. And I learned that sometimes good is good enough. I didn't have to be a perfectionist. And like I know other people who have learned, I probably need to put a bit more effort in and try a bit harder, because and you see how like perfect it is for our life. And it's like this impersonal truth that lives and is all things, gives us things in our life as this kind of separate character in the play of this life. And I think sometimes it can sound like the character gets a bit of a bad rap. Yeah, it's like I'm so grateful to have a character. The ego
gets a right kicking, doesn't it?
And like an ego and an idea of a self, having relationships and friendships and loving and losing and going on holidays and existing. And I think when you see it more as a character, that you get to, like, characters can change. Like in a dream, you can be like dreaming one thing and then suddenly you're in a completely different dream, and that's totally normal. But we kind of get attached to the characters in our daydreams, in our daily life, and kind of want to hold on to them or want to get rid of them. But either way, we focus on it. And I feel like now you just get to play at characters.
Play at life.
What's it like this? It's like trying on costumes. And it can be fun. And I think even the ones...
And it can be scary.
That's what I was saying, even the ones you put on and you're like, I don't like this. I don't like this part of it. Yeah. You realise you can handle it. Yeah. That I amness, whatever comes after it, isn't affected. But it will be brought to life. Full multicolour, and that's being here and being alive.
I think it's sorry.
And I was just going to say, we so often want to. It can sound like people want to step into their spiritual self, step out of the human experience, and have this. I feel like I fully am grounded on earth as a human being, with the knowledge of the spiritual nature of all things. And I think before coming across this, I wanted to transcend the human experience. I didn't want to feel pain.
Escape it.
I didn't want to feel negative feelings. I didn't want to feel that. I wanted to escape it. Whereas now I'm like, wow, this is part of being here.
Yeah.
Understand it. Become aware of it.
Play in life.
And live. Does somebody ask a question? It popped up. But...
Claire.
No, it's Paul again.
It's sorry, it's me again. Well, you have made this horrible beast that won't shut up. I just keep wanting to talk. So I just want to say thank you to Flick. You mentioned there about your realization today where I am not this pain. It's something that's with you. It's not you. And that got me head just spinning a bit curious. And then Dave, you said a few comments on I am an addict. I am. And then it suddenly like just dawned on us. I was like, shit, I always label myself, I'm a bad sleeper. I am not a morning person. And it clicked. And the chair that me and Claire are sitting in, Claire, when we're together, she'll be sitting here in the morning getting ready. And I would not get out of bed. If Claire was strong enough, I'm sure she would have loved to tip the bed up every day because I would not get out. Because I would be lying in bed thinking, shit, I don't want this day to start. I'm dreading the day before I've even got out of bed. And then since the 3-day retreat that you did, every day I'm getting up with no thought, with no shit. Today is going to be. That might be normal to a lot of people, but to me, that's huge. That is epic. That each day is fresh. So the comment I said, I don't know if it was on the retreat where I said, every experience is new. Again, I didn't realize, but I'm living that now. Every day is a new experience. And the getting out of bed is like, and making breakfast for Claire and me or whatever is just, it's just like walking, it's like breathing. It's just there. And for many years, the morning is pain or has been pain. So thank you to Flick and for the pair of your comments there. That I am just really suddenly made a click in my head. And I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Oh, you never have to shut up, man.
Yeah, we get bored of our own voices.
Yeah, I love yours. I don't.
No, you don't actually.
I can't.
I've said to Dave, he'll be absolutely exhausted.
I'll be talking at my own funeral.
And he's like, it's empty. And then the screen will come on, whether it be a group or a one-to-one, and it's just like, on.
Yeah, it's
amazing, isn't it?
I've been fucked this last few weeks. Absolutely exhausted. And then the moment somebody comes on screen and we're having a chat or I'm seeing a client, it's like, it's that thing. When my thinking isn't on the tired, I'm just present. I don't notice it. It doesn't exist. It's like it's gone. You see that even tiredness is a story we tell ourselves. It's a story I tell myself. It's a story I tell myself. And one of the nice things about this is it's the total opposite of an anesthetic to life. You know, and we often talk about this. People are looking for an anesthetic to life. I just don't want to feel like this. I don't want this to be happening. I don't want this. I don't want that. People are looking for an anesthetic. We're not. We're not looking for an anesthetic. We're looking for life. We're looking to feel alive. We're looking to feel peace. We're looking to feel love. We're looking for excitement. We're looking for this right now that we are. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for ourselves. And ourself can handle every single thing the world brings to us. There's nothing we can't handle. The only thing that creates the illusion that we cannot handle it is a thought. Dan, man. Yes, please, sir.
Cheers, Dave. So yeah, this is my first time in the group, so it's great to be here today. I've watched 2 days of the retreat so far, and I think so many things have come up for me. One of them being in the last 4 years, I got on the personal development journey and basically try to fix myself. And I went and got trained as a NLP practitioner, neuro linguistic programming. Did that and had so many tools and strategies. Yet something wasn't right. So I thought, what I'll go do is I'll go train as a master practitioner in NLP. Because once I've done that, I will know how to sort my own thinking out. So I went and did that. And after that, no really had changed. And I'm laughing about it because this is like the realization that I've just had. So then I thought, well, actually, maybe it's not. Maybe it's an unconscious thing. So I'll go train as a hypnotherapist. So I went and did that. And yet, my friend pointed me to someone called Jamie Smart, which is someone in the principles now, and he transitioned over from NLP, and that got me curious. And then I was thinking, why someone with such a, an established thing in NLP, why would he transition over and leave everything behind? So I looked into the principles only two months ago, and I've had so many things happen that similar to what's already been spoken about today. I can't really explain it, and I feel like everything I thought I knew has gone. It's like I need to let it all go. What I thought I knew about how things worked, because that ain't right. And just a comment from what I've seen on the retreat so far, a big one for me was the when you, Dave, when you pointed out about the suicide thought and the thought of what yogurt do I want or something like that, are both coming from the same place. And it sort of, I heard that on a different level. And what that meant to me was that we get so attached to the thoughts that we don't want when we're experiencing them, and we try to fix them. Yet when we have a thought of what yogurt do I want, it's just such a thought of, there's no thing about it. So why can't the other one be like that? So that's what's just a bit about myself, what I've experienced so far in principles and the retreat.
Bless you, Dan. Thanks so much for being here, man. That's really beautiful.
It's interesting, isn't it? When you first started your group, there wasn't that many. It was just women that used to come to your group, and like over the last few years, it seems there's been like loads more men getting interested, and you're really you're excited with the Northern men, aren't you?
Lads. It's like, I love seeing. It's awesome. What I love about this is, tonight we've had a couple of Muslims on, we've had a couple of Jewish people on, we've got ladies, we've got men. Do you know what I mean? We've got ex-addicts. We've got Kelly, who's just kind of like just going, fucking not have a clue what's going on, but I like it. And it's like, I love it because you see there's this full spectrum of humanity, and all of us coming together and going, yeah, I can't really explain it, but I'm starting to enjoy life. And I think one of the things, I love what you said, Dan, because that was when I woke up to this, it was like I saw reality for what it is. It's all the same thing. We think and it looks real. We think and it looks real. But what we've been trained to do is try and change the thought, not understand it. You know, if somebody does wake up and realize, well, what flavour do I want? Do I want a peach Melba yogurt, or do I want a vanilla yogurt? And I want to commit suicide. Is coming from exactly the same source. Ultimately, is the same thing, like a wave on an ocean. Each wave looks different, but it's still always coming from the ocean. It's still always just wet water. And when an individual can see that, and they see that, oh, that's the thing that's happening all the time, is I'm generating this experience from this space of consciousness. You can't get our heads around it. You can never get your intellect around it, but you become aware of it. You just become aware. You see, you realize how limited the intellect actually is when you become aware of that fact. And everybody who's spoken today has spoken with such beautiful awareness. It's like that you become aware. Your intellect cannot get its head around it, but you become aware of this deeper sense of life and who we truly are, and what life truly is, and what this universe truly is ultimately. It makes sense of the world. Hey, Dan, lovely to meet you, man. Take care, buddy. Have we got your email?
Oh, we Facebooked, I think.
We Facebook, cool. We'll drop you. We'll drop you a message. Just one of the call.
Yeah, brilliant. Cheers.
All right, take care. Right, everyone. It's 9:05. Should we call it an evening? Or does anybody want to say anything? Heidi, may I ask? Your lights behind you, what are they?
They're Christmas lights.
Oh. Cool.
I think it's because they're flashing. They're brought in the camera, and you're only small on the screen. They look like they're different shapes or something.
They do look like
They are stars.
Oh, they're stars. Oh, right, okay. Cool. Sorry for that. Look. Does anybody want to say anything? Go for it. Fire. I'll unmute you.
I'll unmute.
Well done. Well, look up.
Hi. I just want to say that I feel like I've got so much to say, but I kind of don't want to say anything, which is a weird. So I've got so much to say, but nothing to say. And that's so nice for me. That just feels really nice. So thanks, everyone. Thank you.
You are welcome. Will you do us a favour? Will you give Kiki a massive hug and a kiss from us?
I would. I tried to get her to come down just now, but she's just screamed at me. I just got out the shower.
Right.
I said, just come and stick your head in and say hi. But,
give her a massive hug from us.
I will do.
Yeah.
I will. I will. I definitely will. I'll try and get in her bed in the morning, but she'll probably tell me no, that's not happening. No, thanks, Mum. So yeah, I will. I'll go and speak to her in a sec. I'll tell her, because I told her I was doing it because I wanted her to come and sit with me, but she's being 15, so it's fine.
Yeah, we tried to get our 13-year-old Ishka to be in here with us, and she's like, yeah, no thanks.
Nah.
Yeah, it's fair enough. It's okay.
Lots to do.
That's their perspective.
It is. And they're entitled to it.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, everybody's saying thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
It's the last one before Christmas, so have a great Christmas.
Yeah, have a lovely Christmas.
We'll
Merry Christmas.
in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
Guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Cheers, everyone.